Well, this is an example of why I encourage people to hit the notification, hit that bell, telling you whenever I go live, because I honestly don't know when I'm going to go live from day to day. I can't schedule things. Life is just too crazy. I mean, things happen. Yesterday, I ended up having to go to the hospital. It was a routine MRI for my wife, so nothing, emergency or anything like that. But just, different things pop up, and that's why I encourage my subscribers and my viewers to hit the notification, because I don't know when I'm going to go live. Today, we're going live at, what time is it? 5:44. How about that? Yeah, that's a normal time to go live, right? But yeah, more college football realignment news. This time it still involves the Pac-12, but it's more centered around the Big Ten rather than the Big 12. Quick reminder, like usual at the beginning of the show, like to remind everybody to hit the thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up. Helps the video a lot. What that does when you hit the thumbs up, aka the like button, it helps this video hit the YouTube algorithm, which makes the video get suggested more, and more people click on it. The audience grows, the chat gets more active, so that helps out the video tremendously. Also, if you have a question for me or a comment you want me to read, or you want to make fun of me, I understand. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Best way to get my attention is that super chat button. It is that little dollar sign that you see on the bottom right-hand corner, right under the comment section. Anything you put in that super chat slot, I will put on the screen. If it's a question, I'll read the question and answer it to the best of my ability. If it's a comment you just want me to address, I'll read the comment, I'll address it. And if you're trying to make fun of me, troll attempt, whatever, I'll slap it on the screen. That's how we do around here. Hold on, I think I forgot to do something here. Give me 1 second, guys. Yeah, I forgot my banner. There we go. Getting professional around here. Yeah, there we go. But anyways, I did remember to put the link in the comments before I started. So if you'd like to join the show, hit the StreamYard link at the top. If I put in a letter or a number wrong and it's not working, let me know in the comments and I'll retype it up in there. So yes, this is a call-in show, but we don't do phone call-ins anymore. It doesn't work out very well. And with StreamYard, you can have multiple people on, so multiple people can join the show. That's what it's all about. So if you want to join the show, hit the StreamYard link and we'll put you up on here. Hey, and it's okay if you don't want to be on camera either, because you can turn your camera off. So it's literally like you're calling me. You're just hitting a link instead of dialing up a number. Okay, so the Big Ten, from what I heard, I talked to my sources earlier today, and if you've already watched the video, then you already know. The Big Ten seems to be interested in Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Cal, which, if you really think about it, does make a lot of sense, because a lot of people are wondering why in the heck has Oregon or Washington not applied to the Big 12. Maybe they already knew something that we didn't know. Maybe they've been talking this whole time and we just didn't know anything about it, because the scenario that I put out there yesterday is, even if in the future the Big Ten does open their doors to Oregon and Washington, wouldn't it be better for them to use the Big 12 as a stepping stone? That's just my opinion. However, if they're thinking about adding them sooner rather than later, then it makes sense. That's when it makes sense. This is also good news for Utah and Arizona State. Okay? Let's face facts. The Pac-12 is not looking good. Probably going to go under real soon. The new TV contract looks like garbage, trash. It was announced, I think it was like $245 million offered by ESPN. Not even split evenly. Washington and Oregon were asking for a 16.5% cut, and then Cal and Stanford were asking for a 33% cut, or no, 13.5% cut, and then that would leave the rest of the Pac-12 6.6% cut. So that means Oregon and Washington would get right around 40, I think it was 44 million, which is more than what the Pac-12 made in the previous TV deal, but still nothing compared to any of these other TV deals. Cal and Stanford would have made $33 million, which is actually lower than the last Pac-12 deal. And then the rest of the group, which is 6 teams, Arizona State, Utah, Colorado, Oregon State, and Washington State, would make about $16.1 million. That's not good at all. So the Pac-12 is not looking good. So the reason why the Big Ten being interested in Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Cal is good for Utah and Arizona State is because the Big 12 was interested in Oregon and Washington and Stanford and Cal. I already know for a fact that Colorado and Arizona have applied to the Big 12, and the Big 12 is expected to accept them. That's going to happen, guys, okay? That's going to happen. But they were wanting to get Oregon and Washington with Colorado and Arizona, and that was going to leave Arizona State and Utah kind of left to fend for themselves. Maybe they get an offer in the future. I don't know. So with Oregon and Washington, Stanford, and Cal rumored to go to the Big Ten, that means Arizona State and Utah can go to the Big 12 with Colorado and Arizona. I know that's not the biggest brands for the Big 12, but that's still good brands. That's Power 5 brands. You're buying low because Arizona's not – they haven't been good for a while. They had a really, really bad year last year. I think they had like 1 win, something like that, 1 or 2 wins. Arizona State is coming back down. Their brand was at an all-time high, I think, in 2020, actually, the COVID year. But they're kind of coming back down because Herm Edwards, little scandal going on. Players transferring out of Arizona State. So they're on the downswing. So really the only good brand out of those 4 teams right now in football is Utah. Utah's brand is at an all-time high. A lot of people don't realize, well, I'm not going to say realize, but they forget. A lot of people forget that Utah has not been a Power 5 team for very long. They were in the Mountain West for a long, long time, very long time. So I think it was like, I'm not sure how many years ago. I'd have to look it up, but it's over a decade ago that Utah joined the Pac-12. And now they're having a lot of success in the Pac-12. So for a team that hasn't been in the Power Conference for very long, they're actually having a lot of success. I know that they've expanded Rice-Eccles Stadium a couple of times since they joined the Pac-12 because of how good their brand is right now. So stadium expansion, success on the football field. Their TV media market is looking good right now. A lot of fans are watching. Utah right now. Utah is getting national attention. That Rose Bowl was making the Rose Bowl is a big deal for anybody in the Pac-12 or the Big Ten, but for Utah, it was an even bigger deal because not only did Utah make the Rose Bowl, but they played Ohio State, and it was a great, great game. That's something that people don't consider about that Rose Bowl. It was great that Utah made the Rose Bowl to begin with, yes, but who they played and how great of a game that was, that helped Utah the most. Now, if they could have somehow pulled off the win, I know they had a decent lead on Ohio State. Ohio State came back. Ohio State barely won, but if Utah could have pulled that out in the end, that would have been even better. But that's okay. I know that loss still stings, but that was a good showing for Utah, and it was against one of the best brands, arguably the best brand in the nation. Ohio State actually garners the most watched games from last year, and College Game Day likes to go to Ohio State a lot. Number 1 destination for College Game Day is Columbus, Ohio. So the fact that Utah drew Ohio State, they kind of got lucky because Michigan beat Ohio State, and Michigan ended up in the playoffs. And so, Ohio State was the next team. They got the bid to the Rose Bowl, and that's who Utah got to play. That was great. That was wonderful for your brand. That was a great turnout. A lot of fans, a lot of Utah fans were there. So, yeah, I think the Big 12 is getting a good deal, is getting a good brand. And honestly, I think Utah should have been considered before Colorado and Arizona. Now, maybe Utah hasn't applied to the Big 12 yet. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But if they haven't, they need to get on the phone and get that application in and try to get in the Big 12 ASAP, because the Pac-12 is garbage right now. It's doo-doo. It's not very good. It's not going to last much longer, guys. Say bye-bye to the Pac-12. It is not going to last much longer. So after I made the video earlier about the Big Ten interested in all those teams, then I talked to one of my sources, which I have too many sources to count. So I talked to one of my sources. Then I talked to another source, and they were all saying the same thing, that ESPN and Fox, they might be trying to talk teams in the ACC into voting to break the grant of rights. Because from what I'm told, lawyers have looked into this as far as is there any way around the grant of rights? And so far, there's no way around them. They're pretty ironclad, and the buyout is ridiculous. I think right now, in this year, to get out of the ACC grant of rights, it would cost the team $500 million. That's insane. But on top of that, they wouldn't be able to make money until 2036 because all their money would go to the ACC because they would still own the grant of rights. So it's just not feasible right now. However, there is a way around it. If they can get 8 teams to vote to break the grant of rights, then it can be done. And so what the conversation that I had with my sources that I talked to today was that Fox and ESPN are actually, Fox is with the Big Ten, ESPN is with the SEC, and they're trying to get certain teams to vote against it, get to the magical number. And in order to convince those teams to vote to break that, they have to reassure those teams, you have a landing spot here. So whoever the Big Ten would be talking to, whether it's Florida State, Miami, Virginia Tech, those are my 4 schools. But it could be other schools like a Georgia Tech or a North Carolina. And then for the SEC, they would be talking to a Clemson. They're probably talking to North Carolina, Virginia, and Florida State as well. And they would be saying, you have a landing spot there. Because I guarantee you Boston College is not going to vote to break it because they have no landing spot. Syracuse probably not. Syracuse is kind of in the middle. They have a great fan base, but not a lot of support right now. Wake Forest is not going to vote to break it. Duke is not going to vote to break it. So they need teams that they want in their conference to vote to break that and convince them, hey, you're going to be fine if you do this. You have a spot. What's going on, guys?
Hey, what an interesting turn of events we have. Looks like it's
every day.
What I can't figure out. Here's what I can't figure out. So the Big Ten is talking about they're going to go ahead and take this contract, finish this contract out before football season even kicks off. They're going to sign it, then bring in the 4 teams out of the Pac-12 and possibly 2 out of the ACC, Miami and Florida State, and adding $250 million to it.
Right. That was the number that Jeff Graham sent me. Actually, I can confirm that.
I don't see that too. I don't see the $250 million value in the 4 teams out of the Pac. I might see it in Oregon, Washington, FSU, and Miami, but I don't see it in Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Cal.
Jeff, I had a few questions about that as well. You explain the numbers when it comes to those teams.
Right. Now, what I got in, it was off of a ESPN website, which, an ESPN reporter gave those numbers. And what he's saying is Oregon is worth approximately 70 to 75 million on its own.
Okay.
Stanford is around, depending on between 45 and 55 million.
I would
And
think that number would be higher because they have a lot of money. But go on.
well, no, they got a lot of money, but as far as a TV
TV market.
revenue,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that's what this is
Gotcha.
all about, is the TV. And then Washington came in at like 60 million.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen is,
hold on. I saw a Duke comment in the comment section real quick, and I want to address that real quick. So, a lot of Duke fans weren't happy about me leaving them out. If the ACC does get picked apart, they're not going to go to the Big Ten or the SEC, and I stand by that. However, I think Duke would be just fine because Duke has stood upon its basketball foundation for so long. They're trash in football. I could see Duke joining the Big East and being fine, and their basketball program, being just fine, and their football isn't great anyway. So, that doesn't matter all that much.
Duke hasn't really had football since Wade Wallace left Alabama to go to Duke and coach them back in the 30s.
I mean, David Cutcliffe had 1 year there where they had a pretty good year, but other than that, they've been just absolute garbage. So, to all the people that think that Duke would get picked up by the Big Ten or the SEC, it's not going to happen, and that's okay. They're going to be just fine if they end up in the Big East. That's a great basketball conference. Duke will be able to continue to recruit at a high level. They're going to be fine. And as far as their football goes, it's garbage anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, here's my kind of thinking on all this. You made the video. Let's talk the Big Ten right now. The Big Ten has 16 teams.
Yep.
Okay. So if you add the 4 other West Coast teams to them, now they're at 20. Okay. And now the Big Ten said that they would also like to invite Miami and Florida State. So the minute they do that, that's 6 more teams. That's 22 teams. Right. That's not going to work. They're going to need 24. So they're going to pick up 2 more teams.
I agree.
Okay. Now, before we get to the last 2 teams, let's go to the SEC a minute. We're at 16 teams.
Right.
Let's say we tell the Big Ten, you can have Florida State. We want North Carolina. We won't fight over it. So we'll take North Carolina. We'll take Clemson. We'll take Virginia. And we'll take Virginia Tech. So now we're at 20, and now we need 4 teams, and the Big Ten needs 2 teams. Now, I truly believe the next 2 teams on the SEC's list is we're going to go to the Big 12. We're going to take West Virginia, and we're going to take Oklahoma State.
I didn't enter that into my equation. That would actually make more sense. I'm so glad that you said that because this is what I wanted to input on that conversation. I'm glad you mentioned that, and I made a mistake on my video when I put it out because it doesn't quite make sense without Fox giving up concessions as well. What I mean by that is ESPN has the TV deal of the ACC, right? Well, if they're wanting teams to break the grant of rights and they're willing to give up concessions to the Big Ten, I don't think that they would do that unless they're like, well, now it's your turn, Fox. You're gonna have to give up concessions from the Big 12. That's why I'm glad you brought that up.
Right. So now once the SEC takes West Virginia and Oklahoma State, now we're at 22 and the Big Ten is at 22.
Right.
Now there's a little bit of argument. I think the SEC would probably take Louisville because it's more in our footprint. And we would probably, at that point, I don't know if we raid the Big 12 one more time and get a team because I don't see us taking Georgia Tech back no matter what. Maybe then we go for a Duke, but I think we would go for NC State first.
I think you could get like an NC State and then one more Texas school, maybe a Baylor or a Houston.
Right, and then I think you would have the Big Ten taking Georgia Tech and probably Pitt or a Duke.
Yeah, a lot of people push back with Georgia Tech on the Big Ten, and I actually agree with that. I think Georgia Tech would be a really good fit. That's why I think the Big Ten could go after if the SEC is willing to concede Florida State to the Big Ten, then the Big Ten could get Florida State, Miami, and then Georgia Tech with somebody else.
Right. And I mean, once you do that, I mean,
because they're not going to the SEC.
No, and I see you just got a super chat for $1.99 that the SEC would take Pitt instead.
No,
now.
the Big Ten would take Pitt instead. If anybody, but we do appreciate it, John Waffle HGP, for the $1.99 donation. Says the SEC would take Pitt instead. The Big Ten would be the most likely choice to take Pitt over the SEC. If Pitt does get picked up by either of those conferences, it would be the Big Ten.
Right.
I don't see Penn State letting that happen.
There's two reasons why the SEC wouldn't take Pitt. And none of them really are because of how Pitt plays or that. One, Pitt is not in the South, so we don't want them. And two, Alabama, Georgia, we're not going to Pitt in November and playing in a cold game.
Fair enough.
It's going to happen.
I will say this, though. The only pushback to that is Pitt is not that far from Morgantown. So that's a big trip, because a lot of people realize the state of West Virginia is stretched north to south pretty good. The northern part of the state gets way more snow than the southern part of the state. If Morgantown was down near where Blacksburg is in Virginia, then I would understand. But Morgantown is way up there in the northern section of West Virginia, not that far from Pitt at all. So as far as the weather goes, I don't think that's an argument. I just think Pitt, the brand, the culture, all that fits in the Big Ten more than the SEC. And, of course, it doesn't hurt that they have AAU status. I don't know if that's going to matter in the future, but they do have it.
Right.
Let me say something real quick. We have a new person in the chat, and I want to shout them out because they're right. Nightbot is with us now, and so somebody must have typed Pitt in the chat, because Nightbot said, "I heard Pitt is good at picking up after your dog." So,
Oh yeah. I have a prize
shout out to
all the
Nightbot
time on the daily. John Waffle HGP, another $1.99 donation. The SEC would have the Pittsburgh mark.
Your third place.
No, if they get West Virginia, they would have the Pittsburgh market. They wouldn't need Pitt.
Well, and I mean, I know ESPN cares, but let's be honest, the SEC don't care about market size. You look at our schools, we're in small towns. You know, we're not like the Big Ten now that got Los Angeles, you know, the Chicago market, the New York.
That's why Miami's not on the list.
Yeah, you know, I mean, we pride ourselves on just Southern football, small, you know, football. But to get back to what I was saying about the grant of rights is, after the Big Ten and the SEC's done, now you're going to have the Big 12 taking a couple teams out of the SEC also. So the grant of rights, not really that big of a deal right now. It can be broken tomorrow if the Big Ten wants to move quick enough.
Yeah. See, that's why I think if the Big Ten and the SEC, aka ESPN and Fox, are going at this together to help break the grant of rights and say you can have those teams and you can have those teams, I don't think ESPN would agree to that unless they're like, well, okay, if we do that, then we want some teams from the Big 12. You can take some teams from the Big 12 to the Big 10 if you want to, but we want some too. We're helping you break the grant of rights for the ACC for you to get some teams. So now we're going to want some teams from the Big 12.
Right. And also I've been hearing that maybe another team we take from the Big 12, and I don't want them, but maybe the SEC takes UCF because that's who ESPN
I've heard that a lot.
You know,
I mean, they're at headquarters, you know, Disney, Orlando.
But to me, that is
I'm
a
hearing
huge
that a lot
mistake.
too.
Because now you're going to make UCF a recruiting team that's going to start recruiting against our Florida, our Alabama, our, you know, Georgia, you know, that you're going to stretch our recruits thin again.
Yeah, that's the only thing that even makes sense as to why the SEC would want UCF over Miami. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
True Seminole, what's going on, buddy?
UCF is a no-go.
UCF is a
I
no-go.
think so too. I think their stadium's too small for one. I think they'd have to build new facilities, new stadium. I think.
Well,
probably,
here's the thing. Here's the thing about their
10, 15
stadium. It
years.
was built with footers so it could expand, and if they needed to do construction during the regular season, they can go back to the Citrus Bowl for a year which is 60,000 seat stadium. So I don't think that would be a problem at all. And Disney owns ESPN. ESPN has a TV deal to the SEC, so it's going to come down to, hey, we built the brand. We can expand the stadium. We want you to take UCF, and they would take UCF.
Well, I do want to ask you this real quick. So I heard, aren't you going to the backyard brawl with Talkers Pitt?
I am, and my brother actually.
Is there a bet on that? You got a bet going or something?
There is a bet. If somehow, some way, Pitt were able to pull one out their rear end, I have to wear a Pitt jersey and make a video and put it out there, and I can never take that video down. But when West Virginia beats Pitt, he has to sing Country Roads. I get to record it, and I put that out, and I'm never taking that down, obviously.
Oh, wow. Okay, sounds like a wonderful bet. I cannot wait to see what happens.
And you know what's funny about that? It's come out that for that week, the Backyard Brawl is the #1 game being bet on right now for that particular week.
Sure it is.
Yes,
How many
sir.
wins do you think West Virginia gets this year?
I think we get to 9.
9 wins?
Yeah, I think we get to 9. I think we're capable of 10 wins. I think we stumble up somewhere, and the game that really flashes out trap game is the road trip to Texas Tech. I think we trip up on the road to the Red Raiders.
No, I just wanted to hop in and see what you thought about it. No.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys go.
Hey, appreciate you popping in, buddy.
No problem, man. Appreciate you having me.
No problem, man. Later. True Seminole popping in. We get reps from everybody. We got reps from the Big 12, the SEC, the ACC. Tim pops in sometimes, so we get a Pac-12 rep in here. Big 10, everybody comes in because that's what we talk about, all of college football. I have not boxed myself into one conference or one team. I talk about all of college football. So, yeah. I'm going to let you take the conversation real quick, Joey, and I'm going to repost the stream link real quick, okay?
Okay. I heard that. Now, I haven't heard anyone talk about this yet. I heard that that USC and UCLA are going to join the Big Ten in 2024. So, I guess they're going to stay in the Pac-12 for 2 more years. So I don't guess there's a real big rush on any of this expansion. They could really take their time and settle it next off season, really. But I don't see that happening. I think there's too much rushing right now. I wish people would stop and think for a little bit.
I think the reason that you have the rush is I think the Big Ten and the SEC don't trust each other.
Yes.
You're going to grab a team because if you don't grab them, then the other team's going to grab them. I mean,
exactly.
like we grabbed Texas and OU knowing that more than likely 2023 was going to be the earliest we would get them, but more than likely 2024, 2025. But we had to announce ahead of time, one, because Texas A&M let it out of the bag, and 2, we just wanted everybody to know what we just did.
Hold on. John Waffle said that link didn't work. Let me double check on that.
I've got it here.
Yeah. And another thing is a lot of people are like, when are announcements going to happen? We don't know. Here's the thing. Some deals are done right now that we don't know about. So as far as when they release the news and stuff, we don't know about that. We're just telling you what we're hearing, what's being said behind closed doors. As far as whenever the news is actually released, I don't have an answer for that.
Well, and here's the thing most people don't think about is, let's say Oregon wants to join. If Oregon wants to join the Big Ten and the Big Ten wants Oregon to join, it's not as simple as, here, I'm going to send you a piece of paper, sign it. Oregon has to get with their regents. They have to get all the lawyers involved in this and that. It's not something like buying a car where you're in and out in 2 hours.
Right. That's not how it works.
It takes time, and I think a lot of teams are closer than what it seems, and some teams are a little further. But I think that's why you're not seeing announcement after announcement after announcement. They're making sure everything gets done before they announce.
Yeah, I agree. What's going on, John Waffle?
Hello. I just want to say, the thing is, when it comes to the market, the Pittsburgh market is better than Morgantown any day of the week.
I agree with that.
The reality is Pittsburgh is in the city. Morgantown is not. I mean, WVU is not. And I'm just saying this not to troll. I know I'm probably getting yelled at in the chat, but there, WVU is a big time MAC school.
Okay, John Waffle, let me ask you this then. How come their television numbers are twice what Pitt's are?
Because Texas and Oklahoma have their numbers.
Oh, is that what
watched.
you're saying? Is that what you're saying?
No, here's the real reason. It's because you're basing
Texas?
your opinion on where Morgantown is. West Virginia carries the entire state of West Virginia. West Virginia carries the DC market, and West Virginia carries the city of Pitt over Pitt. And that's why I said I agree that the market of the city of Pittsburgh is better than the market of Morgantown. I agree, and West Virginia carries that over Pitt.
Technically, Penn State, Pitt is first.
Penn State number one, yes.
Penn State is second, and then WVU.
John, can I ask you a question, John?
Sure.
Let's say I want Pittsburgh in the SEC.
Okay.
Now I want it. Alabama, that's who I'm representing. Alabama, we're going to come and play Pitt. How close to your stadium can you hold 600 RVs?
Well, we can't right now. That's the problem we have here.
See, and
but
that's the
we'll
problem.
build one. We'll get ready for it.
Hey, I want to ask you this. If you had a choice, would you prefer Pitt to go to the Big Ten or the SEC?
Well, I would prefer to go to the Big Ten, but I think that's definitely out of the option.
I don't think it is. I think the Big Ten is a very viable destination for Pitt. I really do.
Yeah, I think you're probably 80% more likely to join the Big Ten than anywhere else.
Well,
but that's if the Big 12 doesn't survive. If the Big 12 doesn't survive, then I could actually see Pitt going to the Big 12.
Well, here's the thing about the Big Ten. Penn State, unfortunately, is the power maker of Pennsylvania when it comes to the Big Ten. I don't think we would add anything if we went to the Big Ten. That's why we're not going to get invited. That's why we're never on the radar. And I figured that out. And I'm going to be honest, I never really thought of it. But, I mean, I think we have a better chance of going to the SEC if we have all our affairs in order. And, yes, that means build a new stadium. That means invest a lot more, but I think it could be possible.
I mean, one problem though.
Hey Joey, we just got Edward popping in. Edward's never popped in. Yeah, Edward's popping in. So this should be interesting.
Edward, get your trash talking ready, buddy, because you got to give me one for Pitt.
You want me to clown Pitt?
You better believe it.
All right. Well, even though before I do that, I like to ask Golden Blue the question first. Before I do,
go ahead.
All right. What? I know I've asked you this before. When do you know when Notre Dame's going to be making a decision on when they're going to go ACC or Big Ten, and is West Virginia going to do the same? Go ACC, Big Ten? What's going on? I just want to first get that out of the way.
Well, things that are true today aren't true tomorrow because of decisions that are made by teams that weren't involved. In other words, something that I've heard was supposed to happen today could change because another team that we didn't see making a decision makes a decision and changes that. So as far as Notre Dame goes, what I'm hearing from Notre Dame is they're actually want to stay independent if they can get $75 million a year payout. And from what I'm hearing, NBC is going to renew their contract, and the ACC can remain the affiliate, and they might do a piggyback game off of the Big 12. Anything to get to that number. As far as West Virginia goes to the ACC, that's not looking likely right now. Now, a year ago it was, from what I was hearing, but right now it's not looking likely because of the SEC and the Big Ten wanting to grab teams off the ACC, break the grant of rights, basically split it in two, and then the Big 12, it might actually be a role reversal to where the Big 12 gets teams out of the ACC.
Okay. All right, cool. Thanks for answering my question. Wanted to know that. All right. Okay. Now, who wants me to clown Pitt here?
Everybody.
Yeah.
All right.
Really does.
Well, Pittsburgh clowning is. I'm happy to do it. All right. Viewer discretion is advised. Parental advisory. If anybody needs to go to the restroom or refill any waters, I would recommend please do so at this time.
Or put it on mute, right?
Right. There you go. Put it on mute. Nope. No one needs to. Okay. Don't say I didn't warn you. Buckle your seatbelts because this is going to be a bumpy ride.
Hey, quick question for you. Hold on.
Sure.
Is this the biggest audience you've had? We have 250 people watching.
You know, I go on the Lunch Money Show and I do trash talking, and there's a lot of people comment on there. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
All right, proceed.
All right, thank you. Okay, well, Pittsburgh Panthers, it's time for you boys to get your prick asses into the clowning box. Take your medicine, eat your crow. Hey, guess what, Pittsburgh? No buffet for you. Well, Pittsburgh, let's see. You're going to be playing eventually Golden Blue Dudes team, which is West Virginia. And I hate to say this to you, Pittsburgh, but you ain't winning against West Virginia. West Virginia's going to kick your teeth in. They're going to win the backyard brawl. They're the masters of the backyard brawl. So again, Pittsburgh, you're not going to win. All right? And you have, how many national titles you have? What, 5, 6? Well, it doesn't matter because national titles mean nothing. Okay? You got whatever conference championships you have. Well, that don't matter either. Because again, West Virginia is going to kick your teeth in. Well, Pittsburgh, I hate to say this to you, but you garbage. Oh, wait a minute. I think I see Pittsburgh in the trash can. You see Pittsburgh in here? Do you see him in here? Pittsburgh is garbage.
Ranting.
Look at
Love
this.
it.
Oh my God! Oh, you get hurt, Pittsburgh! Oh, well.
I have no idea what's going on.
Live with it, you dumbass pricks. You know, you talk about how many daddies you got. Okay, well, I got 4 friends of mine. Their names are Harvard, Pennsylvania, Princeton, and University of Pennsylvania, and all have a combined total of 71 national titles. Are they good today? Answer me that, Pittsburgh.
Wow, how did he know that?
Please, try playing those guys and see how well you do. I bet they destroy you. And that's the bottom line because I said so, you stupid dumbass pricks.
Edward, I was honestly surprised that you knew the combined number of national championships to all those schools. Like, you didn't even know that you were going to be trash talking Pitt, and yet you knew that number off the top of your head. That was crazy.
Well, I can tell you because if you look up Harvard and national titles, they have, as they say, 12 national titles, but claim 7.
Gotcha.
Okay, so
there was only one pushback that I had in your rant.
Okay.
Whenever you said that national championships don't matter, they do. But I think what you were trying to say is a national championship from like 50 years ago doesn't matter because Pitt's last national championship was 1976. Most of us, well, I wasn't alive, and since I was born right before 1982 was over. I was born in December of 1982. So since that time up until now, West Virginia in the backyard brawl against Pitt has 18 wins. Pitt has 9 and 2 ties. We have doubled them up. So yes, we have owned Pitt.
Oh yeah, I think you're going to own them again. I have that feeling.
And I would have been able to say that, like I would say back in December, January. I would have been able to say that because Pitt had a really good season last year.
Who do you have on your
Let's not take
O-line?
anything away from them. They won the ACC. They had a good game against Michigan State. They had a good year last year, right?
Right.
Kenny Pickett graduates, goes to the NFL, right?
Right.
Pitt loses their offensive coordinator, Whipple, which I've heard from Pitt fans that that doesn't matter. He wasn't very good. Still, he was your offensive coordinator when you had a really good offense, right? Then West Virginia finally hires a competent offensive coordinator. Last 3 years under Neil Brown, we've had nothing basically. Graham Harrell from USC, every time he's gone to a new team, that team's average per game as far as points per game has gone up 8 to 10 points per game.
Right.
Attracted JT Daniels. Even if JT Daniels gets hurt in the second game, he's not going to be hurt in the first game. He will at least play against Pitt. So we will have JT Daniels against Pitt. And then you add on the fact that Pitt lost Jordan Addison. My emotion, my confidence went from, man, I hope somehow, some way we pull off a miracle and get this win to I truly believe that West Virginia is going to beat Pitt by at least 10 points. I really do.
We have a better line.
Totally.
But one
Yeah,
thing I
better
want to
line.
say is everybody
John Waffle,
considers Pitt the ACC champion from last year.
Say it
Who did
again.
they play? Everybody says, Pitt won the ACC championship. You know what? I could probably send freaking Kentucky over there to win it last year, or Mississippi State
Yeah.
could have won it last year.
Yeah,
Right?
I agree.
There was
Well, I mean,
nobody in the
if you look at
ACC good.
Look at the ACC. The one year that, Pitt just happens to be the unlucky team that won it whenever Clemson didn't win it. You know what I'm saying? Like, because the one year that Clemson didn't win the ACC, that's the year the ACC didn't get to the playoffs. Now, if Wake Forest would have beaten Pitt in the ACC championship, then that honor would have been bestowed to Wake Forest. It just proved that Clemson's been carrying the ACC, and the ACC needs Clemson to be elite. Otherwise, they're not getting in.
Exactly. And I don't even think, maybe if Pitt would have played Notre Dame last year
Right.
and blew up, beat them or something, but
Or if Clemson would have won the Atlantic and Pitt would have beat Clemson.
exactly. You needed something like that, because when you put Wake Forest in the championship game, come on, that would be like the SEC putting Mississippi State into the championship game out from the West.
Yeah.
There
I
you go,
did a
John.
video on these on what Joey is putting up in the chat as far as fan base size in the ACC if West Virginia and Notre Dame were to join the ACC. I actually did a video on this, and West Virginia was about where I expected them to be, kind of in the middle, but still in the upper half.
But
And their fan base, our fan base has, I'm not going to say almost double that of Pitt, but it's a pretty sizable margin.
Now, I see that Syracuse is number 2.
yeah, that's,
Hold on,
that's
I
fake
got
news.
a question.
Now, were they all born in the 50s when Syracuse was strong back
Well,
in the 1960s?
The problem
Yeah.
with that is this goes by people that identify as whoever the team is, football fan. So this is a measure of how many Syracuse, how many people identify as Syracuse football fans, but that doesn't mean that they're going to the games, obviously, because
Yeah,
they can't
this-
fill up a 50,000 seat stadium.
This thing is based on numbers for the state population that I can tell, or like the area
No.
population.
No.
These numbers are based on media value, on media markets.
Yeah, because
Right.
Notre Dame is not 8.2 million if you just count their area.
Wait, is there a state of Notre Dame? Is there a city of Notre
Well,
Dame?
no, like the
South
area.
Bend. South Bend is not that big.
Yeah, there you go.
You're outside of Chicago, but you're outside of Chicago. So, you're not close.
It's such a
It's
huge-
got to be a fan
Such a
base or
huge
something.
population.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony
These are-
Zappin, thank you for the Edward. Somebody pushed back on you, buddy. Anthony Zappin, thank you for the $5 donation. Says, "Let's go Mountaineers! Please boot Guido Edward back to Brooklyn so he can cheer for Fordham." Do you ever cheer for Fordham, buddy? Just a
No,
question. just a
I've
question.
never even heard of Fordham, so
Fordham's an FCS school. Are they? Is Fordham Ivy League? I'm not sure.
I got a question.
No.
Go ahead.
So were y'all talking about Pitt's schedule last year or something? I just heard like the tail end of it that
Yeah, they
That-
were.
he to play Notre Dame or something. From
Well,
what-
we were talking about the ACC Championship and why last year the ACC didn't make the playoffs because it was the one year that Clemson didn't make the ACC Championship. They've been carrying the ACC. And Pitt just happened to be the team that won the ACC in that year, and they played Wake Forest. And we're thinking that maybe if they would have played Clemson or Notre Dame in the ACC Championship, they would have had a better shot of possibly getting to the playoffs.
No, the only reason they didn't make the playoffs is because they lost to Western Michigan.
Oh, that was
No,
the
we
same
lost
day
to
that
Miami.
that was the
That's
same day
what
that
got
West
us.
Virginia.
No, Miami did not.
That was a
not
great
knock
day.
them out of the
That was a
playoff
great
question
day.
because a one-win Pitt, a one-loss Pitt team would make it over an undefeated Cincinnati anytime.
Yeah.
I mean,
That'd be
Cincinnati
close.
the biggest claim to fame Cincinnati had to make the playoffs was beating Notre Dame, who barely beat Florida State. That started off 0-4.
Well, well, I would agree with that if they would have played like a Clemson in the ACC. I just don't think it did you any favors, or it would have done you any favors beating Wake Forest. Even though Wake Forest had a good year, but it's just name recognition. People's like, well,
I
mean,
think
they
the
just
only
had
reason
one out
they
of their
didn't,
rear
it's
end. They
not
beat Wake
because
Forest.
of who they played in the ACC Championship. I think it's because they lost to Western Michigan. You take that Western Michigan loss off, Pitt makes the playoffs.
I'm not so sure.
Well, we
about
still would
I
have
don't think
lost.
they did.
I-
I'm not
Who
so
do you
sure
put in
about that.
over them?
Well, I would like to
Cincinnati.
give a shout out to the
Cincinnati.
Panther
No,
Girls.
why would you put
No,
Cincinnati
put
over them?
Oklahoma State.
Because they
Why would
went
you put
undefeated.
Cincinnati?
and beat
Okay, if
Notre
we're going
Dame.
to talk about ACC Championship, right? ACC played what? Pitt played Wake Forest in the ACC Championship. Who the heck did Cincinnati play in the AAC Championship?
No one.
No one,
Exactly.
but they beat Notre Dame,
It don't matter. Notre
And
Dame
they
was
didn't
not
lose
a
to
good
Central
team last
Michigan.
year.
And they didn't
to
lose.
Central Michigan
Western Michigan.
or Western.
But he was
Michigan.
saying, who was the other team that Pitt lost to?
Miami.
forget.
All I'm saying is this: I don't
Miami.
think competing in the ACC Championship lost them the playoff bid. Losing to Western Michigan is what lost them the playoff bid. They beat Clemson.
I would agree about the former, but the latter. I think if you would have beaten
They
Western
would have been-
Michigan, even with the loss to Miami, I don't think
Yeah.
Pitt gets in. I think Cincinnati
Wait.
still gets in.
No,
Okay,
no,
so
no,
they
no,
don't get in
no.
for beating Clemson, right? That's what we're saying.
Right.
So
If
Cincinnati
Well,
deserves
no,
to
if
get
it
in the
was
playoffs
Clemson-
for beating Notre
If it was,
Dame.
it
but
was
Pitt
if it
don't.
was a Clemson, like a one-loss Clemson that we're used to seeing in the ACC Championship, then yeah, that would give you more clout. That was my point. Not like a down Clemson, but like the Clemson that we're used to seeing in the ACC Championship. If Pitt doesn't lose to Western Michigan and Clemson has their typical year that we're used to seeing, either undefeated or one loss, and Pitt beats Clemson in the ACC Championship, Pitt has a really good shot of making the playoffs. I think
Pitt
they
beat them,
will make
but
the
Pitt
playoffs
beat them in the
that
regular
scenario.
season. Why does it matter beating them again? They beat them. They had already beaten them in the regular season.
Because it proved that Clemson wasn't very good.
Right.
What-
That's what I'm saying. Clemson had a down year. If Clemson would have had one of their years, I guess maybe
a down
they
year of
couldn't
just
have
10
played
wins,
in the regular
but I promise
season.
you, Clemson would have beat Cincinnati.
Say that
No.
again.
I said Clemson's down year last year was a 10-win season.
Right.
That was their down year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you still take Cincinnati over ACC champion team that only has one loss.
And here's why.
I'll
Because
settle this.
Cincinnati would
I'll
have beat
settle this.
Western Michigan. Cincinnati would beat
They
Western
would've-
Michigan last
No,
year.
they
If played
wouldn't.
10 times, they would have beat them 10 times.
Listen, I understand.
The
Pitt
reason
why
should
they-
not have lost to Western Michigan. That's not the point. We're saying if Pitt did not lose to Western Michigan.
If they didn't lose to Miami, we
Seminole.
would have been in.
True Seminole, they would have taken Oklahoma State or Baylor, either one over Pittsburgh last year.
But they didn't. They didn't take him over Cincinnati, did they?
They didn't take anybody.
Because they
over
lost
Pittsburgh.
2 games. Every one of us
Yeah,
lost 2
'cause
You're
games.
trying to take
Cincinnati got in.
Cincinnati out of the equation.
Exactly. I'm
You're trying to
telling
take
you
Cincinnati
that
out of the
if
equation.
Pitt, you're saying they had 2 losses, right? I'm telling you that if Pitt did not have that loss to Western Michigan, they would have been brought in over Cincinnati.
I
Baylor
think
had
if we
2
didn't
losses.
have that loss
Oklahoma State
against
had-
Miami, we would have been in.
Yeah.
If
Well,
we
yeah,
didn't have
obviously.
that loss
No,
against
no.
Miami, we would have still been in over Cincinnati.
Well, and it's kind of like I tell my daughters, if my grandma had balls, she'd been my grandpa.
What? What does that have to do with this?
Well, because you're sitting here going, what if this and if that?
No.
You know, well, if my
Y'all
grandma had
said-
balls, she'd have been my
First
grandpa.
of all, y'all said what if. First of all, y'all started the what if, and we're talking about it. Y'all believe a one-loss ACC team would not make it over a group of 5 champion. And I'm just telling you, you're wrong.
Not
You're
last
wrong.
year. Not last year.
Not
No,
last year,
because
no.
there was no one-loss ACC team.
No, but even if there had been a one-loss ACC ACC team other than Clemson. I mean, if it was Clemson with one loss, I agree. But that's because they get that bump for being a brand.
The Clemson factor is real. I know it doesn't seem like fair. Like, okay, if Pitt had
No,
one loss
no,
and won
no,
the
no.
ACC championship
If
versus
we
the
win-
Clemson
Clemson
having one
factor
loss
is real.
and winning the ACC
Cincinnati and-
championship, then Pitt should get in because Clemson. But it's just not the world we live in.
Yeah.
Clemson would have gotten in because they're Clemson.
Yeah, a one-loss Oklahoma gets
I'm
in.
not saying that's right. I'm just saying how it is.
Yeah, and then the Big
I don't
12.
care about fairness. I'm not saying fairness. I'm not
That's
talking
that's
about
what
that.
I'm saying.
I'm
I'm
telling
not
you.
going by like what it should be. I'm just saying that's how it would have been.
So can I ask you
Right,
something?
and
So,
in terms of
can I-
fairness, I'm sorry, Cincinnati, but a one-loss ACC team's making it over Cincinnati.
Golden Blue to Chris, you're saying Cincinnati is a better brand than Pittsburgh?
No.
No,
Okay.
I'm saying they went
So,
undefeated last year, and
Well, no one's arguing brands. We're not arguing brand
Yeah.
strength. I'm just saying I don't care who it is. It could be any ACC team other than Duke and Wake Forest, obviously. But any ACC team goes into the ACC championship with only one loss, wins the ACC championship, they get a playoff bid.
Yes.
If I
Not
can give you-
necessarily.
working, dadgummit.
Not
I don't know,
necessarily.
look, if you have a one-loss champion in the ACC and you have undefeated champions in all the other Power Fives, I don't think you're
Then
getting.
yes, I think the undefeated in all the other Power Fives, but we're not. But Cincinnati's not a Power Five team; it's a Group of Five.
Yeah.
I understand that, but
At the end
You
of
do
the day,
have some
we
fair
lost to
points,
Miami.
John. You
It
do have
doesn't
some fair
matter.
points.
We lost to Miami.
It kind
That's why
of
we're making it.
shows us the world that we live in. That a one-loss Clemson would probably get a nod over a one-loss Pitt just because of brand,
Right.
and I don't think that's right. Y'all know me. I hate Pitt. I hate them.
Well,
But I mean, when you're comparing, teams versus teams, and if they had the same exact accomplishments, then it should be the same exact result for both teams.
Well,
but it
not-
wouldn't
now,
have been.
Last year,
Clemson
I've been
and
saying
Pitt-
at the beginning.
Say it's
Last
Clemson and
year,
Pitt.
I
They
was
both
saying
have
at the
one
beginning
loss.
of the year.
Once somebody's winning the ACC championship out of Pitt and Clemson, right? So one team's going to win. Obviously, both teams shouldn't go to the playoffs because one of them won the conference championship. Only one of them gets to go.
If it's head-to-head and
I
Pitt
just
beats
think-
Clemson, I would say they would make it over Cincinnati. That I would agree with.
Yeah.
I
do.
just think it was the year for a Group of Five to get in last year. Everything lined up perfect for them, and I had said at the beginning of the year, and everybody called me crazy, that if Cincinnati goes undefeated, they're going to make the playoffs, and everyone called me crazy. But
Do you know
Look
what
what
set that
happened.
up, Joey? Do you know what that set that up, Joey? It was Oregon going on the road and beating Ohio State. That is what got that
sure,
snowball rolling.
that is
Because everybody and their mom knew that Oregon was going to end up with 2 losses. Nobody knew how they went on the road and beat Ohio State, but they did it and knocked Ohio State off, and that's what set the train in motion for. And all Cincinnati had to do was go undefeated once that happened.
and Oklahoma State had to lose to Baylor because if Oklahoma
Right.
State
So let's get
had
back
won,
to let's get back
That's
to the title of the video. Let's get back to the title of the video because we were
So
talking
I
about
have to go, guys.
Pac-12.
Okay, buddy.
Okay.
Thanks
Yeah,
for coming
thanks
on.
for having me on.
actually, Joey, one
problem.
quick thing. I think the one thing we could all agree on is this is exactly why we have to expand the playoffs because only having 4 is just killing everything.
You're going to expand the playoffs, and you're going to get the same result every time.
You know
So
what?
that is what they're talking now, though. Is 16. Now they're talking 16 team is on the table again, and
Yes.
and
It's
I
getting
think
a lot
okay.
of push right now. A lot.
Yeah, it
You
is.
know-
It's getting a lot of push for 16. So
People used to think that the only good teams in basketball were out of the Midwest or some of these basketball states like Indiana. But once they've had March Madness, all of a sudden you get Villanova, Gonzaga.
Basketball is a totally different sport than football.
Oh, it is.
You need 11 players on both sides of the ball to win in a football game.
And
But it's
you
still
know,
a game of
One
opportunity. You
great
still got to
player
give
in
people the
basketball and take you
opportunity,
to the
though.
Final Four.
Like I had this, I don't remember who I had this conversation with. It might have been you, Jeff. I'm not sure about the Group of 5. It's long overdue for the Group of 5 to split off and create their own playoff and national championship because as is right now, and I know Cincinnati finally made the playoffs, blah blah blah. But the reality is if you're a group of 5 team, you have no shot of winning any type of national championship in football right now. FCS has their own national championship. Of course, FBS has their national championship, but group of 5 teams have no choice. What is the point of playing football for a group of 5 team if you're a competitive person and you have aspirations of getting to the playoffs or national championship going to a group of 5 team? There is none. So I know Cincinnati got there last year. That's never going to happen again. I'm sorry. So I would say that the group of 5 as a whole, they need to split off as well and create their own playoffs and national championship.
The problem
And
is,
I think
and
that's what
Deion
we're going to try to
Sanders
do with
said it
this
best.
16 team.
Deion Sanders said it best. We will not play against Alabama because our skill players might be able to handle it, but our big guys can't handle it. And that's the problem with the NFL, with football. If you don't have the big line, it don't matter how good your quarterback is, how good your running back, how good, your defensive back. You've got to have the big guys. And if you don't have the big, fast guys, you're not going to compete. Look at the Big Ten, how many times they've lost. Ohio State has lost to the SEC. Michigan loses to the SEC. They've got great players, but they're not as fast. And now Ohio State has started, recruiting a lot better, and they do have speed now. But that's the problem with the Big Ten. They can't even compete at times because of the size and the speed of the lines.
Yeah, they need size on the line, and they need speed in the in all the skill positions, and that's where they've kind of messed up the equation. Everybody that's in the chat, if you haven't hit the like, please do so. It helps this video hit the YouTube algorithm, gets the video suggested more, and that's how you grow the video. And as always, I appreciate those of you who have already hit the like.
And I think that,
okay, buddy.
I want to say that I believe that the reason for the push for the 16-team playoff, and that's the Big Ten pushing this, okay? So the Big Ten's pushing for a 16 team. I think the reason for that is I believe they realize that this conference expansion and the SEC building up and the Big Ten building up is going to take away a lot of television viewers. But if we have a 16-team playoff, then they can bring more teams in, like out of the Big 12. And if the ACC survives out of the ACC, the Pac-12 survives out of the Pac-12. I think it's just going to give more opportunity and money. Exactly right.
Money. To me, it's not about, the same teams are still going to win the national championship. Okay, so be it. Fine. But still, expanding the playoffs is important because at least you're giving these other teams a chance. You're giving them exposure. It helps with recruiting that maybe one day, with that recruiting boost from getting to the playoffs, hey, maybe one day they can be that team to win the national championship. I hate that argument. I hate it. There's no point in expanding the playoffs because the same teams are going to win it anyways. That's fine and dandy. So be it. Fine. But you still want to expand because you want to have more diversity as far as just the possibility of playing in the playoffs and having more matchups that are appealing, to the nation. And Jeff Grimm, you're an Alabama fan, and I know you're not going to take offense to this because it's the truth, but everybody doesn't want to see Alabama, and Ohio State in a playoff game every year. You know what I'm saying?
There's more
if they
people
end up in the
rooting
national
against us than
championship,
for
that's
us.
fine. That's fine. If they're the best 2 teams and they end up playing each other in the national championship, that's fine. But as far as it relates to the playoffs, we need more different brands in the playoffs.
Well, here's the perfect example. And I know everybody's tired of Alabama, but think of this. North Dakota has won more national championships in the last 10 years in their division than Alabama.
Right.
And last year, they were picked. Well, they had 2 seasons last year. But the first season last year, because of COVID, the year before because of COVID. But North Dakota was supposed to win it all. And all of a sudden, this small little school, North Dakota State, they made it to the final game. And they wasn't even, ranked.
Yeah. I mean,
so
you just never know. You never know.
Exactly. And I understand probably 90% of college football would rather see Alabama not make the playoffs in the next 5 years and let other teams in than,
But that's not going to happen. I mean, they're going to make the playoffs, and that's
Right.
fine. I mean, they're going to. I just think we need to see a bigger representative of more teams. More brands in the playoffs. I mean, just think if Baylor got into the playoffs last year. I'm not saying they would have got the national championship, but they could have done some damage and had some great games. Same with an Ole Miss. This is me not picking on the SEC. It's not trying to keep the SEC out. I think Ole Miss would have had some compelling matchups. Baylor, Oklahoma State, maybe Notre Dame, could have had a couple of good games. Who knows?
Why
but
not?
You won't know until you expand and get those brands in there.
And Pitt last year, that would have been fun.
And Pitt, yes. As much as it pains me to say it, if Jordan Addison and Kenny Pickett play, an entire game, number one, they beat Michigan State. Number two, they could give a lot of people fits in the playoffs last year.
I think a big part of it too is when you only have the same four or four out of the same 10 year after year after year, then that means recruiting is very different because all the best recruits are going to go to this select few of 8 to 10 programs every year. But if you expand it and you have 12 teams every year, you now have a pool of probably 30, 40 programs that are going to make the playoffs. And so somebody might want to go to a different school and they might take their talents there because, hey, they have a shot at making the playoffs, an outside shot at the trophy. So I think limiting it down to 4 has unfortunately created a problem when it comes to recruiting and created a situation. I think, is Edward trying to say something?
You okay, Edward?
Oh, yeah, I'm just thinking something myself. Good.
All right, no problem. I got you.
I'm
the
listening
biggest problem with
to
the 14
talk.
The problem with the 14 is a one-loss Baylor will not get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Even if they win the Big 12, if there's a one-loss SEC team,
Right.
I know.
Again, it's
You
your
could
brand.
insert any team other than Oklahoma.
Right. If Oklahoma don't win,
Or Texas.
just like we said with Clemson, if Clemson don't win, who's going to get in? You better go undefeated, and you better beat the big teams bad.
Right.
Exactly. I think, Jeff, I want to hear your thoughts on this because I know, what's his name, Stanky or whatever his name is. He said absolutely no auto bids, right? No auto bids in an expansion. But my thought is, okay, fine, no auto bids, but a compromise might be let's expand to 12 and let's have a rule of no more than 4 teams from any one conference. That means if you got 4 Big Tens and 4 SEC, that leaves 4 at large for others.
Right.
I mean, if you're getting 4 out of 16, because the new SEC is 16, the new Big Ten is 16, that's a quarter of your conference getting into the playoffs. That should be an acceptable compromise, don't you think, Jeff?
Yeah.
I would think so.
I think 3 teams, 4 teams at the most should go. And I am against automatic qualifiers.
I am too.
Or I am for – I'm for if you win your conference and you're undefeated or even a 1 loss, yeah, you should qualify. But if you're undefeated Baylor and you play 9-3, let's say TCU or Oklahoma State, and they beat you in the championship game, you can't give the 10-3 now team.
Yeah.
You're going back to whenever who was it that Kansas State upset Oklahoma and knocked them out of the national championship? I agree with that.
Texas A&M. They knocked Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, that's who it was. So because sometimes I'm glad you brought that up because sometimes in these conference championships, you have these teams that have 3 or 4 losses, and all it takes is one game to upset, the favorite who's either undefeated or 1 loss. So the team with 3 or 4 losses beats the team that's undefeated. Under the format of automatic qualifiers, you would give the team that has 3 or 4 losses just because they won their conference championship game an automatic bid to the playoffs instead of, allowing the better team who actually gets in there. Although maybe they get the at-large to go with it. I don't know. I understand what you're saying. Let me go to the super chats real quick. Thank you, John Marzula, for the $1.99 donation. Says Pitt did beat Clemson by more than Georgia did. Hey, that's a fair point. But if you watch the game between Clemson and Georgia, it was not close. Vandy Rose, thank you for the $2 donation. Says no more than 4 in a conference. I like that.
Yeah.
And Andre King, thank you for the $5 donation.
Now, can I agree to no more than 4 from a conference unless Alabama finishes 5th that year for some reason?
No. No pass for Bama. But yeah, I would agree with that because one of the reasons why the SEC wants this expansion is because they know that they can get 6-7 teams in there, and who can? I mean, I don't blame them. That's not me trash talking. I mean, it is what it is. And the Big Ten is thinking they can at least get 4 or 5 in there, so they have their reasons why they want expansion. But I like the idea of stopping at 4 and then taking a look around to make sure there's no more better teams than the next teams in the SEC or the Big Ten, because it can get flooded. If you do expand, it can get flooded with more SEC and Big Ten teams, and that's not what we want.
Well,
right, but I still want to.
Go ahead.
I still want to reward an Iowa State if they win the Big 12, or a Baylor, or I want to reward
as long as their record is fine. You don't want to reward a 9-4 Iowa State.
Well,
right.
I mean, look at Utah last year. I mean, honestly, they were a hell of a competitive team, and if they had made an expanded playoff, it was not a cakewalk for anybody to beat Utah. And you could say that about Oklahoma State and Baylor. But honestly, most years, the top 3 teams in the SEC are really good. But once you hit number 4, number 5, you're not the best in the country. I mean, last year, Baylor beat Ole Miss like a redheaded stepchild in that bowl game. And it was glorious, and I loved every second of it. But everybody thought Ole Miss was just going to cakewalk across Baylor, but they forgot that we actually have a defensive coordinator for head coach. But anyway, I digress. But the point is, that was supposedly the 3rd best team in the SEC.
Well, the SEC had a terrible bowl season altogether. If it was like the playoffs was, they dominated the playoffs and, of course, the national championship. But besides that, they did not have a good bowl season. Hummus Hero says, "Go to Blue Dude, you're usually based, but how is a game decided by a single score not close? Georgia was 1 turnover or a lapse in defense away from losing that game." That's absolutely not true. If you watch the entire game between Clemson and Georgia, that game really wasn't in doubt. The score was close. Yes, very, very close. But Clemson couldn't get past the 50-yard line. And the one time that they did get past the 50-yard line, they had to settle for a field goal. Otherwise, they seriously go back and watch the game. They could not cross the 50-yard line. Now, you could say, yes, Georgia was 1 turnover away or 1 lapse in defense away. Yes, you can say that, but it didn't happen, and it wasn't going to happen. Clearly, Clemson was outmatched last year. That's whenever I mention Clemson versus Georgia and how close it was, that's purely just score. The game itself was not close.
Yeah. And I saw somebody mention Iowa State's never had a 10-win season. I agree. They shouldn't be rewarded. No, they never have.
That's insane.
It's crazy.
9-0-1 is their best record.
Yeah.
Since I've been born, and this is still not a lot, it's kind of embarrassing, but since I've been born, West Virginia's had 4 10-win seasons. 4. That's not good, but it's better than Iowa State.
God,
Way better.
And we've had 3 people don't realize this either. We've had 3 opportunities to win a national championship in my lifetime. 88, we got to the national championship. Major Harris got injured in the first quarter. Notre Dame wins. 93, Florida State gets voted in over an undefeated West Virginia to play Nebraska. And if we would have beaten Florida, we would have gotten a share of the national championship. But our heads were not in that game. We got blasted. And then, of course, in 2007, we were 1 game away from going to the national championship, and we got beat by Pitt. And even non-West Virginia fans that I've talked to are convinced that had we won the backyard brawl last year, West Virginia would finally have their national championship, but it just didn't happen. We've had our opportunities, but it just didn't happen. Iowa State, apparently it seems like Iowa State, They've never even had an opportunity.
Well, the poor guys, every time they're up, the rest of the conference is up.
Right.
And so that's their problem. I mean, Campbell's doing a lot with very little, a whole lot with very little. And it's going to be weird to see what he does this year, though, because he lost, Kolar and Brock Purdy. So he's
that running back too.
Yeah, Breece Hall, I think it was.
Breece Hall, yeah. That dude was a beast for real.
This is really going to be his test, kind of like Neil Brown. This is his test to prove it or lose it,
Oh yeah, definitely. For if Neil Brown doesn't go at minimum 7-5, then he's out. And even if he goes 7-5, our offense has to look like a really, really good offense for 7-5 to fly. Otherwise, we have to go 8-4.
And you got one of the Sills boys back, is that right? One of the brothers?
Dante. We got Dante back.
Got the brother back. Okay, one of the two.
That helps. Yeah,
those two guys were they were brutal.
Sergeant Pickles 13. I like this because it's a fact. Thank you for the $1.99 donation. Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Yep, that's a fact. But sometimes there's an argument in a game where it's like, man, that was a close game. It was just one play here, one play there, but it was not a close game between Clemson and Georgia. It wasn't. Georgia was clearly the better team.
I got to say, I do like close games. I mean, honestly,
I do too.
The Big 12 championship, I mean, literally just inches.
That was insane.
Inches. Oh, man. I was sweating. I'm not going to
we
lie.
Quick goal update, guys. I want to give a quick goal update. So, Golden Blue Dude, we have a goal of 10,000 subscribers by September 1st, the kickoff of the Backyard Brawl. Right now, we're looking at 9,340 subscribers. It looks like we're going to do it, but every subscriber counts. So if you're not subscribed to Golden Blue Dude and you're watching this live show, we would greatly appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button because we have a goal and we have a massive celebration lined out for it. And this could be a perfect storm because I plan on going to the Backyard Brawl and going live there. So maybe we could do something in conjunction with the Backyard Brawl, but we need to get to 10,000 to do that. So every subscriber counts. Go ahead, Joey.
Oh, I was going to say I'm looking forward to the Backyard Brawl myself. So last year, if I'm not mistaken, and I was trying to think of Pittsburgh. That's been on my mind. Didn't they play Michigan State? Michigan State in oh my gosh, what bowl was that? I can't remember what bowl it was. Yes. Didn't they play Michigan State last year in a bowl?
Was it Fiesta? No.
Yeah.
No. It
Peach
wasn't
Bowl,
the
wasn't
I think it was the Peach. It was the Peach or Sugar Bowl.
Peach Bowl.
I think it was
the
the Peach.
Peach Bowl.
Peach, because
Where
Baylor
Michigan
played
State
Ole
finishing?
Miss.
Yeah, where did Michigan State finish in the Big Ten?
Third.
Where did Michigan
Big Ten
State
East.
finish?
Big Ten East. Third. Yeah.
Big Ten East third. So, that's where, Pitt was a good team last year. There's no doubt about it. But that they just didn't deserve to. They would have not have made a playoff. They just didn't deserve to. I wanted to also point out. I noticed that some of the links in the chat that Nightbot's putting in are not working, and I'll fix those.
Somebody's echoing.
That's a noise. Tim, you got noise, man. Okay. So
We're good.
Some of the links in the chat and Nightbot that Nightbot is putting in are not working, and I'll fix those this evening. So if there's a link not working, it'll be fixed tomorrow, so you'll be able to go to it.
What about Nightbot with the trash talk? Did you see some of the trash talk Nightbot was putting out there? He's not playing around. He's not playing around. Had a good trash talk. I'm trying to find it. He had a good trash talk line about Oklahoma. Of course, I remember the trash talk line he had about Pitt. Dude, Nightbot is really coming to play today.
Somebody type in Georgia in the chat. Just type in Georgia.
Oh, so it's like a reaction type of situation. I'm trying to find the one about Oklahoma because it was really, really good, and I meant to highlight it and put it up there, but I missed it.
I always like the one
my
about
favorite one, though.
Tennessee. Have you heard the one about
there's
Tennessee?
there's a reaction for Georgia. Here, I'll put it up on the screen. There it is. I'll put it up on the screen.
Oh man. So Uncle Lou is in our algorithm for Nightbot. How about that?
Yeah.
What about Nightbot coming with the facts with Cincinnati? Check this out.
Cincy is 3-18 all time against.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Coming with the
Totally.
facts.
That's facts.
I'm really liking Nightbot. And then, of course, the one about Pitt. I heard that Pitt is good at picking up after your dog. Yep. Absolutely. I knew it was a good moderator, but man, a trash talk moderator, I did not know Nightbot was a trash talker. He's good. He's good, guys. What's going on, Tim?
You're muted,
I
Tim.
think you're on mute, buddy.
Yeah, sorry, I muted myself. I thought I was one echoing. Not much. Just checking in, doing my daily fix of college football. How you guys doing?
Hey, man, it's a sickness, ain't it? So, what do you think the chances? I know a lot have to line up, but things seem to possibly falling in line to where the Pac-12 and the ACC could end up dissolving or getting picked apart at exactly the right time. Do you think that's a possibility? Because we know that the Pac-12 is not doing good right now. We heard today that the Big Ten is interested in Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Cal. And then, of course, the Big 12 is already interested in Colorado and Arizona, and now possibly Arizona State and Utah. And now I'm hearing that Fox and ESPN might be working together to help break the grant of rights of the ACC. In other words, convincing 8 teams, because it takes an 18 vote to break the grant of rights, to do so, convincing them, hey, you'll have a landing spot. All we need is for you to vote to break the grant of rights. Do you see that a possibility, or is that far-fetched?
Oh, me personally, again, I have no information on any of this, but for me to make a guess, well, the first thing I think about is there are going to be a lot of teams that aren't going to have landing spots, and that's where my first thought goes to, is what's going to happen to those schools. I mean, West Virginia, you guys will be fine. You know, Oregon, Washington, I always knew they're going to be fine. The other schools, you know, they're just going to get relegated, and that's just kind of the way it's going to be. And again, I didn't like going down that road. We talked about last night on StreamYard for a while, that same idea, and it's kind of depressing. I think the fact is that if Oregon leaves, or Washington, and definitely if both, that the Pac-12. I mean, to be honest with you, I think the Pac-12 and the ACC are dead conferences walking anyway.
Right.
You know, and again, not going to be popular here, but I don't know if the Big 12, as it sits right now, could be competitive with the other. It's just set up. Fox and ESPN. I know I'm the doom and gloomer, but the way they did this thing, it is basically set conferences that no one can compete with, and that's just not right.
I think this question right here, or this comment, is suited for you as well, and it is the super chat from Vanity Rose. We appreciate the $5 donation. Says, when the Big Ten is finished with the Pac, how do you feel about San Diego State and Fresno State? Still a good market, recruiting, and a piece of California. The reason I think that's a good question for you as well is because, you know, if they do lose some of those teams, the Pac-12 is going to be super weak. Would there be any point? Would there be any value of adding a team like San Diego State or Fresno State?
Would there be value?
Would
yes.
It help at all? Would it help at all?
Would it help? Would there be value? Again, in a football sense, absolutely. Those are two great programs. I mean, a lot of people don't know about those programs, but they, you know, especially Jeff Tedford coming back to Fresno State, I think they're going to give USC all they can handle in week 2, you know. But as far as moving the needle and TV contracts and money, basically what's driving all this stuff, I don't see either one of them making that much of a splash. No, not really. But again, there's a reason. You know what I mean? There was a reason why there was a Power 5 and Group of 5. You know what I mean? There was a reason why that line was there. And now ESPN, by grabbing Texas and Oklahoma, and the Big Ten by grabbing USC and UCLA, they've just now they've cut that in half. And now they're kind of made it to where there's still great teams in all the conferences, but now it's been watered down to the point, and those schools have been filled up with such TV revenue that it's just going to be, I think we just hit a tipping point. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
with everything that happened, it was very weak. Initially in the Pac-12, you saw the cracks in Pac-12. I really do think Kliakov was bringing it back. I think if he was given 3 years, and if Riley continues the success like he had Oklahoma at USC, Oregon's always been strong. And then Washington just pulled a USC and they had a bad coach. So that's why Washington sucked. But everyone's got to remember, Washington traditionally is a strong team and they were just in the playoffs. So, I mean, it's not like the Pac-12 has sucked for decades, you know? The past 5 years have been absolutely horrible in the Pac-12. But
Vanny
historically,
Rose said, hold on. Vanny Rose said that he was actually talking about those two in the Big 12. Okay, so he was saying San Diego State and Fresno State in the Big 12. Well, it's still the same argument, just a different conference, because it's tough for fans to split what we see on the football field from what their actual value is. They could have a great football product and yet still not have value for a TV media deal. And the crazy thing is the fate of a university when it comes to football is actually in the hands of the fans. If the fans would support the team more and watch their team more, it would raise their value. It's literally in their hands. It's, you know, that they can put out the best product possible out on the field, but if people don't watch it, if people don't support it, then they have no value.
Well, and I think Tim will agree with this. I think USC going to the Big Ten is going to help them get better faster, because with the chance of Ohio State going to USC or Michigan, it's going to get USC's celebrities back in the stadium that hasn't been there the last few years because they've been down. It's going to get the big celebrities into the stadium. It's going to have Texas high school or California high school recruits saying, hey, look, the celebrities are all at USC. That's where I want to play. I want to play in front of, you know, the Will Ferrell, the Snoop, you know, stuff like that. So I think by getting new blood into the USC, you know, with Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, Nebraska, I think it's going to help them get better a lot quicker.
Let me ask you this, Jeff. I know you're an SEC guy, but how does the ACC survive this?
The ACC, the only way the ACC can survive, and it's going to be hard, is if Notre Dame tomorrow says, we're coming to the ACC.
I would agree.
I
and we have heard from Notre Dame borns and a bunch of different people talking. We have some spam that needs to be gotten rid of in the chat. But yeah, I honestly, if Notre Dame doesn't join full time in the ACC, I don't see how they survive. I mean, maybe they can survive till 2036 if they can't get teams to vote to break the grant of rights, or if they can't figure out a loophole. But I agree with that. I think Notre Dame would be the key for the ACC survival.
Yeah, I don't see another team. West Virginia, Oklahoma State, let's say they want to bail to the ACC. Why would they do that? They're going to make more money now in the Big 12 than they would in the ACC with the grant of rights. They're stuck for, 14 years?
Right.
Yeah.
So only Notre Dame can save the ACC right now, and I don't even think Notre Dame saves them.
Right.
So let me tell y'all something we
agree
was
with
talking about in a stream the other night. So like, for instance, when USC and UCLA left the Pac-12 and joined the Big Ten, so the
I see you traveling fools in the chat.
market, anyone in the Los Angeles area that had the Big Ten network, which wasn't very many, but some of them carried the Big Ten network. Anybody in that area, it was about 10 cents per household that the Big Ten network got out of that area. When USC and UCLA went to the Big Ten, that number has jumped from 10 cents per household to $1.50 per household.
That's
now,
a big jump.
I seen the same stat as far as ACC network in West Virginia right now. The ACC network gets 10 cents per household for anybody that carries the ACC network or wants to watch it. If West Virginia was to go to the ACC, it bumps that revenue to $1.50 as well. So $1.50 per house, 1.8 million households, $1.50 per household. That's what that would jump that to.
How?
Before they ever play again. I don't know how, and Tony can explain it to you how. And I'm sure that Jim remembers that as well. That's what I was saying. We was discussing that in the stream the other night with Tony Alsomore. And
he's our numbers guy. He's really good with our numbers.
Right.
Gotcha. Quick reminder: anybody that hasn't hit the thumbs up, please do so. It helps the video tremendously. That YouTube algorithm, man, it's an enigma, but hitting the like button helps, and it gets the video suggested and more people to smash it. So hit the like button, and we greatly appreciate it. Guys, you know what's crazy? It's been an hour and a half. I did not realize that I've been live for about an hour and a half. This has absolutely flown by because I have so much fun. I hope y'all are having fun as well. But we're going to go on for a little bit longer, and then we'll do our final words. So what about the Pac-12? Can the Pac-12 pull a miracle out of their rear end like what the Big 12 did?
Well, if the Pac-12 was to survive, Oregon and Washington has to check their egos. They cannot ask for more money because the other teams won't do it. I like the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 right now, the way it stands, even without USC and UCLA, they have better brands than the Big 12. Oregon, Washington, Stanford, those are better brands.
Not counting Oklahoma and Texas.
Right. Who does the Big 12 have? Oklahoma State. Baylor's only been good the last few years. West Virginia, you've got a lot of wins.
That's fair.
Who do you have?
Yeah, that's a fair comment. Robert France, what's up, buddy?
Not much. It's Robert France.
France, my bad. Robert
It's all right,
France.
man. It's all right.
Is it French?
No, German.
German. Gotcha. What's going on, buddy?
Not much. I kind of enjoyed the conversation in your videos with about the ACC and the big Pac-12.
Yeah.
Because even I said it. These ESPN is going to lowball them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I knew that, and a lot of them were like, "Oh, you're out of your mind." I'm like, "No, I'm just telling the truth. You're dividing and conquering. That's the number one thing."
Do you think they're going to do the same thing with the ACC because we heard that they're renegotiating?
Yes.
Or is this all about the granted rights? Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking is that they're trying to just dissolve the ACC. I'm originally from Big Ten country from Pennsylvania. So
right.
I know how with the Big Ten and also most likely how the SEC is going to act towards it. It's just pretty much we can offer more money. Why be in this small group when you can be with us?
Right. And I don't think the ACC is the only conference at risk. I think the Big 12 is at risk too. Like I said earlier in this video, why would ESPN concede the grant of rights to the ACC, allowing the Big 10 to get teams out of the ACC for Fox if they can't turn around and say, hey, we want teams out of the Big 12 as well, So I think it's a double front. Working on the grant of rights for the ACC, getting 8 teams to vote to break that. And then, the Big Ten and the SEC can have their pick. And then they'll turn their focus on the Big 12, and the Big Ten and the SEC will have their pick. And then they'll get to their magical number and break off from the NCAA.
That's the number one plan. That's what I would see too. That's 100%. I can
same
agree
thing
with
playoff expansion. That's in the works now. I'm hearing the 16 team is picking up a lot of steam right now. A lot of steam. Have you heard anything new about that, Jeff?
I've heard the SEC still isn't on board with the 16 team.
The SEC or the ACC?
The SEC. We only want 12. That's as far as we want to go. We don't want to go to 16 because here's the problem with the SEC. We got 2 teams in the BCS. We always got 1 team in. We get 4 teams in the playoffs. Most years we get 2 teams in.
That's fact.
Now, if you're going to limit to only 4 teams, well, if we get 2 and 4, we're going to get 4 and 12 for sure. Why do we want to go to 16 and share the pie?
Right. And the reason that surprised me is if they went to 16, then I think the SEC would have a chance of on the regular getting 6 to 8 teams in the playoffs, possibly 9 in those crazy years. So that's the only thing that made me raise raise my eyebrow. Like, that would actually benefit the SEC because they would be getting even more teams in the playoffs. So that was my only pushback. Why I didn't understand why the SEC would be against that. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, and I might be wrong. I mean, I don't speak for the whole SEC, but like we discussed earlier, what year has the number 5 team in a conference deserved to be going for a national championship?
I mean, I understand that argument, but at the same time, you could say that about some of the teams that, made a Super Bowl run in the NFL or, World Series, any type of tournament style playoff format. You'll have that one team that in the regular season maybe didn't look like they deserved it, but they had the opportunity and they made that deep run, even if they didn't actually win the national championship or whatever championship. They looked good and made they did some damage in that type of playoff.
But who was the number 5 team?
Compelling matchups is what it's about.
Let me jump in, Jeff. You're talking about a number 5 team. What I'm saying is, how often is the number 3 team in any conference worthy of discussion to being in one conference to be in the national championship? See, what you guys are all discussing is and you used the word Golden Blue. You said tournament. Now, do we want a tournament? Because what tournaments do is they make the regular season. Tournaments make an invitational is what you guys are talking about. Make this whole thing not a playoff. It's not a playoff. A playoff would be when you have the champ from each conference go into brackets and play in a tournament. The way you guys have it set up now is basically you're inviting, who we all decide, I guess, apparently in some committee are the best teams to go join a tournament, and that wins it. And the problem with that is in basketball, that really ruins the regular season. I mean, many of the friends I know, they'll watch the definitely the Final Four, maybe the tournament, but they don't care about the additional 20 some odd games, 23 games they're going to play before they start breaking off into these things. So I think if you're going to have that many teams and have 4 teams from the SEC and 2 or 3 teams from the Big Ten, it just totally defeats the purpose of having conference champions, and it just ruins everything. And it locks other teams out. I've never understood, if you can't win your conference, why do you have the right to win the national championship if you can't win your own conference?
Maybe I used the wrong word. Whenever I said tournament style, I'm talking about, they get matched up and the winner, the winners proceed and play each other, like in all the playoffs, like, the NFL playoffs, Major League Baseball, NHL, all that stuff. Tournament style, not necessarily the big dance. That's way too many teams, and I agree. It devalues the regular season. For the playoffs, I would say 12. I really like 12, and here's why. It keeps incentives, and it keeps the regular season important, and it keeps the conference championships important. In other words, you'd have your 12 teams, right? And then the top 4 champions get the bye week, and then the next 4 best teams get a home playoff advantage for the first round. So there's no motivation to take a game off. Every game still matters because you want that home playoff game. You want that bye week. You want that conference championship. And, we talked about the danger of maybe a 9-4 team winning a conference championship and getting into the playoffs. Well, that may be, but they're definitely not getting a bye, and they'd probably get smashed out in the first round anyways.
I mean, not often do you have a number 5 team or when are we ever arguing about the 4th or 5th best team in the country going into the bowl games as someone that should be winning that's going to win the national championship? I'm saying putting 12 teams in, if you're going to do that, I think it's great for football in one way and one way only. You're getting some of the other smaller conferences a crack at it. You are enfranchising all these different smaller people that feel like they're not a part of the big thing because they're not, on ESPN all the time. You're saying, hey, look, you're going to get your shot at the end of the year. And if your champion is that good, he's going to go up against, the rest of these guys. But if you're going to load it up with, the Big Ten and SEC and then throw a couple of, other people in, and a lot of these conferences won't get a shot anyway, it seems to me it's just, again, one is for money, because that's what it's about, you guys. If we go to a 12 team, it's not because we think there's 12 teams who can win the national championship. It's because ESPN, Fox, and everyone else is going to make a lot of money on this thing. There aren't 12 teams that have a shot at winning the national championship. There just aren't.
Well, I would agree with that too. And that goes back to my argument that I had towards the beginning of this live show about, what's the point of group of 5 teams if they don't have a chance to play for a national championship? They should split off, blah, blah, blah. Well, if that doesn't happen and the group of fives don't split off, and then you remedy that by expanding the playoffs and saying the best champion every year, the best champion out of the group of 5 teams gets a spot, an automatic bid in these playoffs. That way everybody's represented. Otherwise, group of 5, split off, create your own playoff and national championship. Because right now, and this is just me, the group of 5 conferences are pointless. They're pointless. They're less important than FCS because even FCS teams play for a national championship.
Well, I have an argument with what Tim says. I don't agree with what Tim says because I think that any year there could be 12 teams or even 16 teams with a chance to win the national championship. And here's why. Teams get better through the year as they play. So you take a team, I don't care who it is, just pick a team, and they play like their first 2 games of the season and maybe lose them both and then just run the table from there on out because they've improved, they've gotten better as a team. And then they get to the end of the season and they're ranked 16th in the country and they get into the playoffs. And they're a lot better than they were back at the beginning of the season. There's a chance they could run the table in the playoffs.
Great point. You know, the team you just named, Joey, you just named Utah last year. Yeah. They made the wrong call as their quarterback at the beginning of the year. And that's what killed you. You just outlined Utah last year. And I got you there. The only thing I don't like, Joey, is again, I don't think, and now that USC is going to be in the Big Ten, I should be a proponent jumping to their side now. But I just have a problem with teams that don't win their conference being called the national champion. That's the one. That's the one thing that gets me hung up. I know I'm going to lose this battle because, again, it's going to be about money, and the more games they play, the more money they're going to make. But I'm just sorry. How do you call yourself the national champion when you finish second or third in your own conference? And I mean, I have a problem. I feel bad for Alabama last year who won their conference championship. Was it the conference championship? No. But anytime you have where you lose your game, right? You beat someone and then they win the second game. So then you're 1-1 against those guys. Now, granted, it happened to Georgia and Alabama just coincidentally to both of them. So now I guess maybe it's evened out. But it's just something I feel bad for a team that beats someone in the regular season, loses them what we call some kind of a playoff, and then all of a sudden, because you're 1-1 against them, they're called the national champion because it was the second time. At the very least, fine, have a rubber match where like there's be a third game to see who is the national champion.
Case in point, whenever LSU and Alabama had that rematch, and it was a disastrous national championship.
And that's why I don't complain about last year. We got beat at home by LSU, and we come back and won the national championship. And last year we beat Georgia, and they come back. But about the playoffs, I don't think Fox or ESPN is going to let it be a 12-team playoff. I think they want a 16-team because do you want your top 4 to set out a week and not play a week? Think of the money you're going to lose because the first week of the playoffs, you're going to have
doesn't make sense, actually.
6 through 12 playing. That's not an important game, really. You want to see the top 4 play. So that's why I think they're going to go to 16.
Well, if they do the 16, how do they keep teams from taking a game? Like if okay, let's say, there's a couple games left in the regular season. Alabama's like, we're getting in no matter what. We don't even care what seed. We're going to rest some of our starters. If we lose a game, fine, whatever. But we're getting it. So how would they keep the regular season important, especially towards the end?
Home field advantage.
There you go. Just like the NFL, you're getting home field advantage if you win your division or you win your conference. But what I also think is you guys are selling me on the 16. I hated it before, but Joey made the great point about a team having a slow start. But also, what's also going to encourage and to save the sport? If you're not afraid of not having to finish in the top 4 in order to get into the playoff, let's say you can show up in 12th place. Some of these schools, I'm not going to name names or anything, but the schools that play these directional schools and play garbage in the preseason and never play anybody at all. They never traveled, say, from the East Coast to the West Coast. Maybe we might start getting those games because you don't have to game the schedule in order to get get the playoffs. Because there's certain teams that are going to be perennial teams in the playoffs if there's a 16-team playoff. And then you're just fighting for position.
Florida.
I would agree with that, and I would say one more thing. What, Joey?
What'd you say, Joey? Said he's talking to you, Florida.
Oh yeah,
He's talking to Florida.
exactly.
I'm
And
not
another-
talking about any specific team. Just like I'm in the classroom and I'm telling everybody off, I don't look at any students. I kind of look at the ceiling because everyone knows who I'm talking about. We don't have to look and point them out. Everybody knows. Everyone knows
No,
who the
that-
discussion is about.
That's not how Joey rolls. He's got to point everybody out.
He's saying Alabama hasn't been to USC in a while.
Well, to be fair, USC hasn't been to Alabama in a while either. So I mean,
Hey,
no,
Alabama
that's
did schedule a home and home with Texas, so there's that. I mean, it's something. I know Texas is bad, but they didn't know that when they scheduled them.
Alabama's a
Ohio
bunch
State,
of
too.
big time. Yeah, Ohio State. They got a bunch of guys coming up, but
Yeah.
not so much the last 20 years, Jeff.
West Virginia. Yeah, home and home with West Virginia.
Yeah.
I would say the
Oh,
one thing that
interesting.
we can agree on is we got to get rid of these neutral sites as well. That's, I mean, it's I don't like them. I just plain don't like them. Do a home and home. Okay,
Yeah.
this year you have to go on the road. Sucks for you, whatever. But then next year you get your rubber match, whatever you want to call it, back home. Just get over it. Go on the road. And the next year you get the home game.
Yeah, the NFL can keep their palaces. We don't
Yeah,
like that. Those things are
exactly.
ridiculous.
I was
Exactly.
gonna say when you mentioned the neutral site. I agree with you, Golden Blue Man. I think they should get rid of the whole neutral site thing, at least for regular season. But I could understand, when you do it for the national title or you do it for the the playoffs or bowl game or for your what is the
Conference championship.
Thank you. Yeah, conference. Yeah, I could understand bringing it in then, but regular season, come on, we don't need a neutral site stadium for regular season. Like they're doing a neutral site game for I think was it BYU and was it Tennessee? They're doing one.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Come on, in Las Vegas, what are they using, the Raiders Stadium or something, or where UNLV plays or something?
Both.
Yeah, but do you
Oh,
want to go
God.
to Neyland Stadium? And get
This
hit with
almost
mustard?
makes me want to clown neutral site games now. Maybe I
Well,
need
Yeah,
and it's a
USC's
weekend-
playing.
it's a
USC's
weekend
playing
and
in
not
Las
for one
Vegas.
particular team too, because if you think about it, I mean, it's Las Vegas. BYU is going to have the numbers in that game, and then if you jump over to this other neutral site game between Georgia and Oregon in Atlanta, who's going to have the numbers in that game? That's not a neutral site game. Do a home and home.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's
get rid of this whole neutral site thing. I mean, I
It's
get it. Yeah,
ridiculous.
money.
It's
money
all about
talks.
sponsors. It's all about sponsors, getting money from the sponsors.
Yeah, money
Guys,
talks.
I got to run, so I'm going to let everybody get their last word in. We'll start with Tim. I'll let you get your last word in first.
Yeah, no, not much of a last word. Just I enjoyed the conversation. I do think that we're moving closer and closer. Just this, it's going to be relegation, and some of these conferences are going to start losing traditional teams, and more and more popping in. I do think that USC is going to get those travel buddies. So that's in the 4 schools that were named. I kind of think that they knew it all along. I thought it was kind of weird that USC jumped into this thing where there'd be only 2 West Coast teams playing with 14, with 14 East Coast teams. I kind of knew there was always going to be a couple of West Coast teams involved. I'm just wondering how
it would have
fast
made
it's gonna be
sense
decided.
for that decision to happen if it wasn't. I agree with that 100%. Well done,
Yeah.
buddy.
All right.
We'll go to Robert France. Last word,
Hey,
buddy.
The only thing when I was hearing the discussion about the neutral sites, only one game I can think of that for the neutral sites is Army Navy.
Yes,
Would-
I agree with that.
Yeah,
And
because
there-
I'm an
there-
Army
there's
vet,
a
so I
few
should
like
know.
reoccurring games, like the Army
Mhm.
Navy game,
Mhm.
Florida Georgia, and then the Red River rivalry between Oklahoma and Texas. Like that,
Yeah,
that's a traditional
definitely
every
agree.
year type of thing. Those I'm okay with. That it still has the college environment. At
Yeah.
least.
Except for Army Navy, usually they pick a bigger site because the president's going to come,
Right.
active duty service members. So you need a big place like they usually use Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia,
They do.
Yeah.
which makes sense. So I'm like,
And sometimes they use Baltimore's, don't they?
yeah, they
Yeah.
have done that too. Yes.
Okay. Well done, buddy. Thank you for coming on.
No problem.
I'm going to go to the master trash talker, Edward. Last word, buddy.
Well, like I said, it was my first time on your show, or live one. Thank you for
I hope
having
you had a
me.
good time, man.
Yeah, man, it was awesome. I'd love to do it again,
Absolutely.
And like I said, I really do hope they just. And I said this on the Lunch Money show, not the last one, but before. I said this: college football should be played on the campuses, not in a neutral site game, especially regular season. I mean,
100% agree.
they need to get rid of that. I mean,
Yeah.
But like I said, national championship, playoffs, conference championship, bowl game. Yeah, that's fine to have neutral site, but regular season, no, we don't need it. We don't need it.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you, Edward. Thank you for coming on the show, buddy.
Thank you, Golden Blue Dude. Have a good night.
No problem. You too, buddy. We'll go to Jeff Grimm. Last word, buddy.
I think that we're all going to hear something in the next 4 weeks. I think you're going to see the Pac-12. Yeah. I think you're going to see 4 teams say, we're going to the Big Ten. I think you're going to find 4 teams saying, we're going to the Big 12.
Adios.
think the lawyers are working on the grant of rights. I think they're working on the teams wanting out. And I think you might not hear it before the season, but I think before the end of the season, the ACC does get picked apart. And before the next before the next championship game, I think you'll see who will be in the Big Ten, who's going to be in the SEC, and I think you're going to have a better understanding for the playoffs.
I would agree with that as well. And as far as the timing, I would say in the next 2 weeks we could start hearing announcements. That's how soon I think it could happen. Yeah. But otherwise, yes, 100% agree with you. Thanks for dropping by, buddy.
Have a great night.
You as well. Joey Foster, last word time, and do all the promotions that we're doing as well.
I will. So we have I will point out, I agree with everything Jeff said there, and I think the next announcement is going to come August the 1st. That's what I believe, and that's when the new Big 12 commissioner takes over. I think there's going to be some invites. So we have a great promotion, right? We have a great promotion coming up next month in the whole month of August. Be sure you tune in. If you make a purchase in August from our store, you're going to win a super nice prize donated by Traveling Pools. Be sure and sub Traveling Pools up. He's almost at 1,000. And also, if you make a super chat, we're going to have a super nice prize also donated by Traveling Pools. These are extremely nice prizes with values of close to $300. So you're going to want to be here in the month of August because every time you super chat or every time you buy something out of the store, you're going to be eligible to win those prizes. Go ahead with your super chat there, Chris, and I'll finish.
And I actually like this super chat. Thank you, Vanity Rose, for the $2 donation. How about a playoff spot for those last Big 12 spots? Let them play for it. I'm good with that. Let them play for those spots. Yeah. What about the college game day thing we got going on?
Yes, sir. So we got a college game day thing. If you can get a banner or a sign or anything on college game day, and get a picture of you with it, and send it to us, we're going to give you a $100 gift card. Right, you can send it to Golden Blue Dude. You just got to say Golden Blue Dude on the sign, and we'll get you a $100 gift certificate to our merchandise store. And so that's a great thing. And if you're wearing Golden Blue Dude merchandise from the merch store when that picture is taken at college game day with holding the sign, you'll bump it up to $150 merchandise gift for you.
Absolutely.
So I guess that's basically all I have. Oh, I will say this because this is the West Virginia room. We got a lot of West Virginia, right. We got a lot of West Virginia people in here, though. I'm going to say this. Last night in the StreamYard, we always do a little private StreamYard. A bunch of us, 6 or 8 of us, get in there, and we brainstorm. Well, last night, one of them found a site where you could simulate teams from any year against each other. So we took the best teams from every year. We took the best teams, 16 best teams for the last 16 years, and we took West Virginia from the 2007 season, and we put them up against everybody in there. West Virginia smoked everybody and played Clemson, the 2018 Clemson team, for the national championship. Clemson won the game on that one, but West Virginia smoked everybody, every national championship team, all the way back to 2007. So that was pretty cool.
I like it. Hey, I'm good with that. And that. I really do believe if West Virginia would have won that last football game, we'd have a national championship.
Yeah, we would. So also, like Golden Blue Dude was saying, we do have a podcast now. We on Substack. If you go to Substack.com, we have our writers there, but you can access everything from GoldenBlueDude.com. If you go to GoldenBlueDude.com, you can access our writers, our merchandise store, everything. But we're on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, any of your favorite platforms for a podcast. Golden Blue Dude. Be sure and search for Golden Blue Dude, and you can replay any of our live shows because that's what we upload to podcast. We will eventually start doing a special show for the podcast as well. So, and you can subscribe or you can be a free member. I recommend subscribing because when it comes college football season, a lot of those streams will be subscriber based only. So just letting you know. So all right, guys, that's all I've got. Take care.
Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you.
You have-
On the way out, guys, don't forget, if you haven't hit the like button, yes, it won't be live anymore. It will be on replay, but the more likes this video has, the more likely it's going to be suggested because it will hit the YouTube algorithm. So on your way out of the live show, make sure to hit that thumbs up. Yesterday, people hit the thumbs up on the way out, and guess what? Last count, a live show here at Golden Bluted has over 4,000 views. That's a lot of views for a live show. So, yes, it really, really helps. Please hit the like button on the way out. I really like this comment right here. I wanted to highlight it. Thank you, the one. I know it's not a super chat, but I really liked it. He says, I vote Golden Bluted as top influencer for college football content, period. I concur. I vote that too. No, but seriously, I appreciate that. Golden Bluted is getting much bigger. People are starting to know who we are. We're catching the eyes of a lot of people out there. So y'all keep doing your thing. Keep sharing it. Keep liking it. Keep subbing it. If you're not subbed to Golden Bluted, hey, we're on the march to 10,000 subscribers, trying to get there by September 1st, the Backyard Brawl. And I'm going to be doing a live show for the Backyard Brawl, so don't miss that as well. So if you're not subbed up, man, what are you waiting on? And make sure to hit the notification because I don't have a schedule. I don't know when I'm going to go live. So that's the only way you're going to know when I go live. Hit the notification so you get notified. So for today, I'm done, but I'll be back live tomorrow. So y'all have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow.